Chapter 42. Tomorrow Can Wait. 3 days had passed since the makeshift delegation from Onira first arrived in Rokan. After everything they went through for the past few weeks, they were finally given the opportunity to rest up without having to worry about their safety for once. But with the knowledge they had gained from their experiences in Doriva, as well as the encounter with the 6 hooded riders in the Doran Desert, they knew that the period of peace was only temporary. Trouble lay ahead of them, sneakily peeking around the corner to reveal a tiny glimpse of its ugly self like an ominous crimson dawn creeping up from the horizon. Soon enough, it would swallow the sky and cast a blood-red veil over the entire realm. But, as Cato would say in a slightly altered version of a verse he presented to his master as a gift, once the past has passed, the present presents presents. Tomorrow can wait. He spent his time in Rokan doing all he could not to think about the daunting prospects of tomorrow, indulging in the pleasures of a carefree life, living in the moment as if tomorrow would never come at all. It was a characteristic he inherited from Piper Loxwald, and he had never been happier with it. Of course, there was still a matter of great personal significance he desperately needed to discuss with King Aethra, but even that seemed no more than a measly droplet in an endless ocean compared to the time he wanted to spend with his siblings and Maya. He wished the bliss of the past few days could have been frozen in eternity, but was cursed with the knowledge that nothing was made to last forever. The 5 Onirans were sitting by the fountain of Boroka's inner courtyard, eagerly staring at the closed doors that led to Aztar Kin, or the Hall of Knights in Malak, impatiently waiting for the Malaki nobility to conclude their gathering. Cato had insisted on the inclusion of Marcus at the very least, but was told by General Raziel that until the marriage was solemnized, no outsiders would be allowed in their sacred hall. So, they waited, just as they had been doing for the past couple of hours.
You really should have told me who she was the very moment she stormed into the gatehouse,
Marcus said, finally having the opportunity to say it to Cato's face after seeing him for the first time in days. Marcus's time in Rokan was spent getting acquainted with his dearly betrothed, a humbling experience that shriveled any ego he had left.
What? And miss out on that dumb look of yours?
Cato laughed and teasingly patted Marcus on the chest.
Not a chance. You should have done your homework.
Marcus grunted.
Do you have any idea how embarrassing these past few days have been for me? Zazie is relentless. Relentless. The entire city guard sees me as a joke now.
He lay down on the grass and stared at the overcast sky with his hands folded behind his head.
I think she hates me.
Cato raised an eyebrow, shook off his disbelief, and began laughing again.
You have so much to learn, Dom Hiso. The Malaki people are very direct in their speech. It takes a little bit of getting used to, I agree. But you are as blind as you are dumb if you think that she hates you.
Marcus said, and paused for a ridiculously long time to think on the matter.
I need to learn Malak.
Good luck with that,
Maya said, absently stroking her palm over a collection of small plants and flowers she plucked up at random.
You barely master the common tongue,
she added, and dumped the green bundle on her brother's face with a laugh. Marcus shot upright, spitting a few blades of grass from his mouth. He brushed the rest from his beard that was no longer an overgrown thicket, but instead meticulously trimmed to a neatly shaped topiary. For a second, it looked like he was going to erupt into a passionately belligerent rebuke, but the genuine happiness he saw on Maya's face was more than enough to dull his fangs. He couldn't even remember the last time he had seen her laugh with such joy. He grunted a sentimental grunt, knowing how much he was going to miss the heated sessions of intense bickering with his little sister.
Maybe you can get Rain to teach you,
Cato said, waving his hand in front of his sister's face. Rain looked up from the book she had been reading in silence since they settled down in the courtyard. Her startled face told them she hadn't been listening to a word they said. Cato glanced over the opened pages and chuckled.
That's quite a heavy read, Sunshine. We have only been here for a couple of days, but your Malak has already improved in leaps and bounds. I'm impressed.
Rain blushed and slammed the book shut in a hurry.
Hello, Domakan,
she said timidly.
King Aethra's library is amazing. I have never seen so many books in a single place before.
Well, I guess you can't learn everything from books.
Cato muttered, noticing the flaws in her pronunciation.
But at least you show the willingness to learn.
Raven meekly accepted the sneer that was obviously directed at him. He had been eyeballing the never-ending flow of the fountain for hours on end with nothing but a blank stare, completely drowning in a stream of brooding thoughts.
You may never learn the language, but at least you look like a malak.
Maya joked without being dishonest.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can ever get used to this.
Marcus said, uncomfortably squirming in his Malaki attire, which consisted of a single piece of pearly cloth with a crimson sash tied around his waist.
I quite like their women's fashion. Comfortable and elegant.
Maya jumped to her feet and spun around. She wore a white tunic that was fitted to her physique, with delicate flowers made of gold intricately woven into the fabric.
I think I may even take a few of these back home.
Yes,
Cato murmured as he watched her twirl in delight.
please do.
Kay, Raven suddenly said. The gravity in his voice dragged the frivolity of the conversation to the ground with immediate effect. He paused until he was acknowledged with an apprehensive flick of the chin.
I wish to go to the coronation of Jackdaw Blackshaw and Willow Whiteshade.
Cato's face wrinkled into a grimace. Hearing that name still managed to fill his heart with a dangerously toxic hatred.
You don't need my permission.
He said, matching his brother's gloom.
We are equal parts of the family. You are free to do as you please.
He drew a deep breath and cast a quick glance at Rain. By the lack of shock or surprise on her face, she must have already known about Raven's wish.
What do you hope to accomplish?
I don't know,
Raven answered quietly.
but if you had the chance, wouldn't you want to find out where you come from? To know who your parents are?
And you think Jackdaw will give you the answers?
Maya asked. She walked over to Raven and knelt down to meet him at eye level.
Would it truly make you happier to have the knowledge?
Raven steered away from her piercing stare.
Jackdaw seems to know more about me than any of us do. I can't say if having answers would make me happier, but I do know that I can't just put it behind me without at least trying to find out.
He turned to Cato, still waiting to hear the answers to his questions.
I would.
Cato said solemnly.
It is part of the reason why I wanted to visit Rokan. King Ephra knows something about me that I have to find out.
He looked at Raven with a heavy-hearted smile and put a hand behind his brother's neck.
So yes, I do understand why you feel the need to go.
The Malaki king knows something about your ancestry?
Raven asked in surprise.
Perhaps, but never mind that for now. This isn't about me.
Cato said and turned to Rain.
Will you go as well?
Rain nodded gingerly.
I'm sorry, Lord Cato,
Don't say sorry unless you have something to apologize for, Lady Rain.
Cato promptly reeled her in for a family embrace.
You keep an eye on him for me, sunshine.
He said and kissed her forehead.
Of course.
He tapped her nose with a finger and turned back to Raven.
Don't forget that you might still be seen as outlaws in Morales. Show them your ring when you run into trouble. They wouldn't dare disrespect a member of the Oneran nobility. Do you understand me?
Raven nodded, even though he hadn't even entertained such a scenario yet. His heart immediately began pumping a few beats faster.
What will you do when you meet him? Jackdaw Blackshaw is a dangerous man. I don't want you to underestimate what he is capable of.
Actually, I was hoping you would join us. After you've talked things through with the king, that is.
I can't.
Cato noticed the dejection that instantly wiped the beginning of a careful smile from Raven's face, but his answer was final and resolute.
The next time I see Jackdaw Blackshaw will also be the last. What I might do at the coronation would start a war between Onira and Morales.
I understand,
Raven replied sullenly. Ever since Doriva, he had seen the murderous intentions in Cato's eyes every time Jackdaw's name was mentioned.
I only want to have a talk with him. After that, we will join the Oneran envoy and return home when the festivities are over.
Just promise me to be careful out there.
Cato said, knowing the dire consequences a simple conversation could lead to. Having learned the hard way himself that even a frivolous talk with the purest of intentions had the potential to alter the course of destiny. Raven chuckled.
What? A promise just like the one you made us, Kay?
The words may have stung, but his voice was venomless. Cato forced himself to chuckle along, but knew how to do so convincingly.
Exactly. But you're a much better man than I am, Raven Knight. I know you will keep your promises.
Raven nodded and finally flashed his signature grin again.
Thank you, Akon.
Oh, so you did pick up a few words.
By the way,
Maya said, her eyes cast on the Knight family with slight envy.
any idea who the Oneran representatives will be at the coronation?
Cato rubbed a hand over Raven's frizzy hair and broke off the embrace with his siblings.
According to my Aspiran colleagues, we are sending an envoy led by two of our very best as a sign of respect. Aisha Celestine and Mycon Bloodthorn, which seems like an unnecessary risk to take if you ask me, sending two of our 4 commanders.
I think Malachi is also sending their best,
Marcus said, having paid more attention to what was being discussed behind the closed doors of Aztarkeen than whatever the Knight family had been talking about.
Raziel Mantarok and Zion Hizarok.
Well, that should be interesting. Your father and father-in-law in one room. They're old friends, aren't they?
How come you understand what they're saying, Lord Marcus? Why are they speaking amongst themselves in the common tongue?
Rain asked, observant as always.
I've been wondering the same thing myself.
Marcus mumbled.
No, you haven't. Stop trying to ride on the back of Blondie's brilliance,
Maya said, and sent Rain a wink.
It may seem crazy to some, but not everyone in Malachi actually speaks Malak.
Cato straightened his back to assume the dignified posture of a certain historian who's about to lecture anyone willing to listen.
You see, people from the eastern part of Malachi, especially in the region closest to Kyogun, speak a dialect that's neither Malaki nor Kyoguni. However, everyone in Malachi knows how to speak what we call the common tongue, which is of great importance to a nation that prospers from foreign trade. As we all know, the common tongue is, in fact, the native language of Aspira. This because Aspira is the oldest known civilization to...
What else have they been talking about?
Raven asked, knowing that if he didn't interfere, they would be sitting there, listening for the next 50 years. Along with the hatred for Jackdaw Blackshaw, the endless prattling seemed to be another characteristic Cato inherited from his experience in Doriva. Marcus held up a finger and remained silent for a moment, still listening to the discussions of the Malaki gathering.
There's been talk of strengthening their borders as a precaution. They plan to raise their nationwide alert level to 3.
They, Marcus?
Maya asked with a smirk.
Whatever.
What does that mean?
Rain asked with a nervous chuckle.
Level 3 out of how many?
If the Malaki security system is the same as Onira's, Level 3 means that preparations will be made for armed conflict. Level 4 means that enemies are at the border, and Level 5 means that the home territory has already been breached.
Sounds sensible and prudent to me,
Raven said.
There is no telling what Emperor Cain might do, not to mention that they're still on the lookout for Taimujin Sivalok.
Marcus nodded with a grunt.
The king seems to be especially concerned about the abandonment of Doriva. He wants to propose a joint operation with Onira to secure the city with 4,000 soldiers. Salavor Inkarok has been appointed captain of the Malaki forces.
Oh, joy!
Cato said, crossing his arms.
I think the king wants you to join the operation.
Cato rolled his eyes and said nothing.
Why do they call you Cato Aztarok?
Astar, Knight, Ok, House. You figure out the rest.
Cato answered, still moping on behalf of all 6 historians that were a part of him.
What makes him think that I would want to accept?
Something about a plan to enter the northern realm from Doriva.
All sulk instantly vanished from Cato's demeanour. A part of him got excited because he had been aching to visit the unknown realm ever since he first heard of it. But a much larger part of him turned apprehensive, because that would put him more than just a few steps closer to Cain Everlong. He retreated to his thoughts and weighed his options in silence.
Who is Lord Sandal?
Marcus then asked.
He seems hell-bent on joining the mission as well.
Oh, I know the answer.
Maya said in high spirits, finally able to contribute to the discussion.
Lord Sandal is the father of my former classmate, Isma. That would make him Dasan Visasok's brother. Am I correct?
She nudged Cato with her elbow and was answered with a solemn nod.
That makes sense,
Marcus said.
He really wants to put Jin's head on a spike.
A few minutes passed by when he suddenly made a grimace of disgust and heaved a heavy sigh.
One of the lords seems to recognize the head of that monstrous creature, says he has seen it as an illustration before. He seems disturbingly passionate talking about it, even sounds like an overexcited child at times. I guess I'll need to have a talk with him when I get the chance.
Cato snapped out of his reverie and scoffed.
Be careful what you wish for. You are talking about the chief scientist of Malachi, who is known for his creative experimentations. Watch out, he doesn't snatch your organs while you're not looking. Da Mao Misomok is quite, something.
Noted.
Marcus grumbled and continued listening to what sounded like a conclusion to the gathering.
Apparently, there will be a feast tomorrow night to celebrate the official betrothal of me and Zazie.
He grunted and glanced at Cato, who seemed to be quite content with it.
I wish someone would have told me.
Well, of course there will be a feast. How often do you think all these nobles are gathered in one place? You should have seen it coming on your own. I had more important things to do than to hold your hands here.
Uh-huh.
Marcus responded coldly. His eyes shifted back and forth between Cato and Maya. He was just about to say something he had been dying to do so since he first saw them together, but a thunderous bang turned his attention to the doors of Aztakin. The gathering had finally come to an end. Immediately, a miasma of musky noblemen and noblewomen, who had been trapped inside a confined space for over 7 hours, spread across the inner courtyard like a family of skunks with rabies.
Finally!
Cato said and jumped to his feet.
I'm going to have a word with the king if he would finally stop avoiding me.